Hello, my name is Michael, and I obsess. I come across something that grabs me and I consume until I can't take anymore, and then I'm on to the next. Some obsessions last a week, others a lifetime. It is my intention to explore these obsessions with you as they occur while the passion is hot. Welcome to Eclectic Obsessions. The term daikaiju translates to large, strange beast. It is a science fiction and fantasy giant creature that often takes the role of either antagonist, protagonist, or force of nature. Tokusatsu is a Japanese term for live-action film or television drama that makes heavy use of special effects. Tokusatsu entertainment often deals with science fiction, fantasy, or horror, but films and television shows in other genres can sometimes count as tokusatsu as well. Gamera is a kaiju originating from a series of Japanese tokusatsu films of the same name. Gamera first appeared in the 1965 film Gamera the Giant Monster, which was initially produced to rival the success of Toho's Godzilla. Since then, Gamera has gained fame and notoriety as a Japanese icon in his own right. The character has appeared in other media such as comic books and video games. In the United States, Gamera attained prominence during the 1970s due to the burgeoning popularity of UHF television stations featuring Saturday afternoon matinee showcases like Creature Double Feature, and later in the 1990s when 5 Gamera films were featured on the TV show Mystery Science Theater 3000. I was absolutely one of those 1970s UHF kids. I loved all the monster movies, but Gamera has always been my favorite. There was always something slightly different about Gamera. I had a very empathetic relationship with him. We will be exploring the first 4 films of the original Showa series in this episode of Eclectic Obsessions.
Pounding across the motion picture screen comes the most terrifying monster of them all. Gamera, the Invincible. Gamera, the super monster that even the H-bomb cannot destroy. Gamera, the Invincible. Attention everyone! Take cover! Gamera, consuming raw atomic power. Power to destroy entire cities. Open fire! Man's most destructive weapons have no effect on Gamera, the Invincible. The mightiest nuclear weapons ever devised are powerless against Gamera, the Invincible. Is humanity doomed? Will the world be destroyed? The United Nations is called to emergency session in a last desperate effort to save the world.
We have one plan that we think might work. We have discussed Plan Z with the Japanese authorities, and they agree it is the best of our alternative plans. Is that correct, sir?
That is so. Plan Z is hope of the world.
A cast of thousands at the mercy of the most terrifying monster that ever lived. Brian Donlevy as General Arnold.
Is beyond comprehension. He must be stopped now.
Albert Decker as the Secretary of Defense. Will Plan Z stop Gamera? Gamera, the Invincible.
In the Showa series, Gamera was a titanic, fire-breathing, prehistoric species of turtle who fed on flames, coal, magma, petroleum-based materials, and other flammable substances, all of which presumably giving him the ability to breathe fire. He possesses a pronounced sagittal crest on his head, and his mouth is full of teeth, with a large pair of tusks protruding upward from the lower jaw. Gamera's shell is extremely resilient and strong. Missiles and other weaponry merely bounce off of it, along with most of his opponent's attacks. Gamera's underbelly, however, is softer and not as resilient. Gamera can fly by jets ignited when he retracts his legs. He can then propel himself by rising up into and spinning through the air with all 4 legs in, and in later films he can fly straight with just the rear legs drawn inside his shell. Gamera the Giant Monster. Giant Monster Gamera is a 1965 Japanese kaiju film featuring Gamera, produced and distributed by Daiei Film. The film is directed by Noriaki Yuasa and stars Iijai Funakoshi, Harumi Kiritachi, and Junichiro Yamashita. It is the first film in the Gamera franchise and was released in Japan on November 27, 1965. A re-edited version with new footage was released the following year in the United States as Gamera the Invincible. This was the only film in the original series to be given a theatrical release in the United States. In an icy Arctic region, an unknown aircraft is shot down by an American jet fighter. The aircraft crashes and its cargo, a low-level atomic bomb, explodes. The resulting cataclysm awakens a giant prehistoric monster called Gamera, who has the appearance of a giant turtle with teeth and large tusks. Japanese scientists on an expedition, including Dr. Hidaka, Kyoko, and Aoyagi, nearby are given a devil stone by an Eskimo chieftain who explains that the creature is called Gamera. Gamera destroys the American jet with his fire breath and escapes into the sea. The monster heads to Japan and surfaces from Sagami Bay, where Toshiro, a boy releasing his own pet turtle, sees him. Gamera destroys the city of Fujisawa and a lighthouse. However, he also rescues Toshio from falling from that same lighthouse and then retreats back into the sea. Scientists and government officials hold a conference to discuss killing the monster. Gamera destroys a research ship, kills the crew, and then heads to Tokyo. He is attacked with freeze bombs and blown up, falling onto his back as a result. The scientists indicate that a turtle cannot right itself once on its back and that Gamera will therefore die of starvation. Gamera then pulls his head, limbs, and tail into his shell, emits flames out of his arm and leg cavities, and flies away by rising up into the air and spinning around like a flying saucer. Toshio and his family decide to stay with an uncle in Tokyo because they have nowhere else to go. Toshio explains to the professor that Gamera is lonely and, like regular turtles, he is not evil. Dr. Hidaka, meanwhile, has observed that Gamera consumes fossil fuels and may seek out atomic bombs for the energy they provide. He also emits radio signals. This leads the Japan Atomic Energy Commission to see an opportunity to use its nuclear stockpiles. Meanwhile, disasters and accidents start to occur. Koto Ward is struck by flash floods and ships collide in Tokyo Bay. Dr. Hidaka claims that Gamera has caused these accidents because he is hiding in the bay. An international scientific conference is called, and they decide to use Z-Plan, based at Oshima Island, involving a consortium of American, Soviet, and Japanese scientists to eradicate Gamera. Before any action can be taken, however, Gamera arrives at Haneda Airport, destroying the control tower, and proceeds to wreak havoc in Tokyo, including destroying the Tokyo Tower. Toshio and his family evacuate again, but Toshio disappears. Z-Plan is still not ready, and the scientists plan to keep Gamera at bay in the meantime by confining him to an oil refinery. Dr. Hidaka has surmised that Gamera is gaining energy by consuming fires at the refiner, and they will therefore keep shipping petroleum there by train to keep Gamera occupied for 24 hours. Toshio finds his way to the refinery and sneaks on board a train bound for Gamera, chased by the refinery chief. They are both thrown from the train when it explodes, but are unharmed, and Toshio is sent on his way. Z-Plan is finally completed, and Toshio sneaks on board a ship delivering supplies to Oshima. Gamera is lured to Oshima by lighting an oil slick path from Tokyo to the island, but an oncoming typhoon blows the fire out. Aoyagi starts a bonfire, and Gamera makes his way to a volcano erupting on the island. The next day, Z-Plan is put into action. Gamera is lured to a rocket and launched to Mars. The worldwide announcement of success extols the triumph of science over ideology. Aoyagi and Kyoko go off together, and Toshio decides he is not sad because he is going to be a scientist so he can visit Gamera one day. Director Noriaki Yuasa initially began production on a film called Dai Gunju Nozura, literally the Great Rat Swarm, which would involve real rats crawling over miniatures of cities. The rats received for the film had fleas, which halted production on Dai Gunju Nozura. The success of Toho's Godzilla films led to the rival company Daiei to create a monster series of its own. As the miniatures for the film were already built, Masayachi Nagata had the idea to develop a giant monster to attack the city, and had the idea for a giant flying turtle. Yuasa and screenwriter Nisan Takahashi developed the idea into the 1965 film Gamera the Giant Monster. Special effects technician Ryusaku Takayama designed the turtle suit used in the film. The films created by Daiei were aimed at younger children than the Godzilla films of the period and had lower budgets. Gamera the Giant Monster was the only film in the series shot in black and white. Yuasa stated that the first Gamera film had a budget of about 40 million yen, and that the film went over budget a little bit. Due to the commercial success of the first Gamera, the second film had an expanded budget that Yuasa stated was 80 million yen. Gamera the Giant Monster was released in Japan on November 27, 1965. The film was a bigger hit than the studio expected, which led to a higher budget for the second film, Gamera vs. Baragon. An edited version of the film was released theatrically in the United States on December 15, 1966 as Gamera the Invincible. This version contained additional scenes with American actors, a new theme song by the Moons, and all Japanese dialogue dubbed in English, making the US version run at 86 minutes. These included the scenes with the Alaskan Army Base, the Pentagon, and the UN headquarters. This version of the film was also shown frequently on American television in the 1970s. Sandy Frank Film Syndication released the film on VHS as Gamera in 1987. This release featured an English dub for the Japanese version and replaced the original soundtrack with a new score. Neptune Media released the original unaltered Japanese version and US version on VHS in 1999. Alpha Video released a cropped public domain version of the US version on DVD in 2003, along with other public domain Gamera films. Vintage Home Entertainment released Gamera The Ultimate Collection on May 17, 2005, which included a compilation of the entire film series. Shout Factory released the original Japanese version of the film on DVD in May 2010. Mill Creek Entertainment released the original Japanese version of the film paired with the other Gamera films on Blu-ray in April 2014. The film was last released by Willett Acquisition Corporation on February 17, 2015. Gamera vs. Baragon.
All persons evacuate the area immediately. Repeat, all persons evacuate the area immediately. This is an order.
Always in search of vaster sources of heat and light energy, Gamera was immediately aware of Baragon's rainbow and rushed across the skies to Osaka to find it.
The monster Baragon has wiped out the entire Army missile range, but at the moment seems to be sleeping.
Keep calm, everyone.
That ends the 9 p.m. emergency news. Stay tuned in on the Civil Defense frequency for music and any further developments. Gamera's only weakness is his sensitivity to cold. He is now frozen solid, unconscious, probably dead. The new monster, on the other hand, came out of the Titanic struggle relatively unscathed.
Baragon, sir.
Only one noticeable gash on the right side of his head. No one knows where Baragon will go or what he will do next, but we are keeping our telephoto lenses trained on him.
Great monster duo Gamera vs. Baragon is a 1966 Japanese kaiju film directed by Shigeo Tanaka. It is the second entry in the Gamera film series and was released directly to television in the United States by American International Television. Set 6 months after the events of Gamera the Giant Monster, a meteorite collides with the Z-Plan rocket transporting the creature to Mars. Now free, Gamera returns to Earth and destroys Kurabi Dam in Japan. At the same time, 3 mercenaries are sent by Kano, a World War II veteran, to an island in the South Pacific to receive a huge opal he once found and hid in a cave. Despite warnings from the local villagers, the trio find and locate the opal, but one dies from a fatal scorpion sting. The second man, Keisuke, Kano's younger brother, is betrayed by his fellow expeditioner Onodera and apparently killed in a cave-in. En route back to Japan, Onodera accidentally leaves the opal exposed to infrared light. The heat incubates the opal, actually an egg, and the lizard eventually hatches. Growing to enormous size very quickly, the lizard destroys the ship in Kobe Harbor. Keisuke, having survived the cave-in, awakens in the care of the villagers. He then returns to Japan with a village girl called Karen, who refers to the lizard as Baragon. Baragon wreaks havoc in Osaka with its freeze gas-emitting tongue and stops the launching of the retaliative missiles with a rainbow-like ray emitted from 7 spines on the middle of its back. Baragon encounters Gamera and the two battle, with Gamera eventually being frozen solid. In the meantime, while debating with Kano on how to recover the opal, which he still believes to be aboard the sunken ship, Onodera inadvertently blurts out that he killed his 2 companions and then murders both Kano and Kano's wife to cover up his crime. After finding Onodera, Keisuke and Karen subdue him and leave him tied up in his home. Keisuke and Karen travel to the Japanese Defense Ministry and suggest a plan using a huge diamond to lure Baragon into a lake to drown. The plan fails because the diamond's radiation proves to be not enough. Another attempt by irradiating the diamond with additional infrared radiation almost succeeds until Onodera, having been released and informed of the diamond by his wife, steals the gem. Both he and the diamond, however, are immediately devoured by Baragon. Keisuke discovers that mirrors are not affected by Baragon's rainbow ray, so the military devises a plan to reflect its own rainbow emanation back at it with a giant mirror. Baragon is wounded by its own ray, but despite prompting, it cannot be goaded into repeating its mistake. Gamera thaws out and attacks Baragon once again, and after a destructive battle it drowns Baragon in Lake Biwa and then flies away. Remorseful over the disaster his greed has caused, with his brother now dead and having found love with Karen, Keisuke decides to make a fresh start on the island where it all began. Gamera vs. Baragon was released in Japan on April 17, 1966. The film was never released theatrically in the United States. It was first shown in the United States by American International Television as War of the Monsters, with an English-language dub supervised by Salvatore Billeteri. The film was reissued to television and home video by King Features Entertainment in 1987 as Gamera vs. Baragon. Gamera vs. Gaius.
You know who that is, boss? The headman's grandson.
Gaius sent out a green ray. He was really angry, and it hit Gamera's hand, and it was just like a knife. It almost cut his hand right off.
You referred to the new monster as Gauss, did you not?
I named it that because that's the kind of noise it makes.
Logical.
Attention, citizens of Nagoya. Gauss hates light. Turn on all the illumination you have available. Repeating, Gauss hates light.
Look! Gamera!
Giant Monster Mid-Air Battle, Gamera vs. Gaius is a 1967 Japanese kaiju film directed by Noriaki Yuasa. It is the third entry in the Gamera film series. A series of volcanoes erupt in Japan. The eruption at Mount Futago in Shizuoka Prefecture attracts Gamera, whose arrival is witnessed by a young boy named Aichi. Gamera then climbs up and into the volcano. A research team is dispatched to the volcano to find Gamera and study the effects of the eruption. Meanwhile, Chuo Expressway Corporation is building a road nearby, but local villagers refuse to leave. The research team's helicopter is destroyed by a sonic beam emitted from a cave in the mountains. Reporters are informed that no bodies were found. The culprit is not Gamera or the volcanic eruption, and an announcement will be made soon. One of the reporters, Okabe, leaves for the site, and he and the road crew foreman Shiro Tsutsumi arrive at a protest there simultaneously. Okabe sneaks through the barrier, and Tsutsumi and his crew are turned away, as are the villager protesters, by the arrival of a young woman. The villagers return to inform the village headman of the happenings. The protests are a ploy to get more money for the land. The young woman is revealed to be Aichi's older sister. The crew returns to find the work camp destroyed and a strange green glow coming from the mountain nearby. The work crew goes to investigate. Aichi finds Okabe in the woods near Mount Futago recording the same light the workmen saw. Okabe convinces Aichi that it might be Gamera, and the two make their way to a cave. The cave-in starts and Okabe runs away, leaving Aichi in the cave. Upon exiting the cave, Okabe is eaten by a giant monster, which is later identified as Gaios. The workmen enter the cave from a different opening, and Aichi makes his own way out of the cave, where he discovers Gaios and is trapped by a falling rock. Gaios grabs Aichi and Gamera appears. Shiro and his crew arrive just in time to see a battle between Gamera and Gaios, during the course of which Gaios drops Aichi, who is rescued by Gamera. Gaios injures Gamera with its supersonic beam, but is forced to retreat after several blasts from Gamera's fire breath. Gamera rescues Aichi and brings him safely to a nearby amusement park. Shiro uses the Ferris wheel to retrieve Aichi from Gamera's back, and Gamera flies away. Aichi is interviewed about his experiences by Dr. Aoki and the Countermeasures Group, who have set up headquarters in the Hotel Highland. It is Aichi who calls the new monster Gaios because of the sound it makes. Dr. Aoki explains Gaios' abilities and that it was awakened by the volcanic eruptions. A squadron of aircraft attacked Mount Futago and Gaios destroys them. Aichi calls to Gamera, who is tending his wounds at the bottom of the sea. Gaios attacks at night, and all of the cattle in the village run away. During a meeting the next day, the villagers become divided on whether to sell their land or not because of Gaios. Tsutsumi's entire crew, save two, also quit because of Gaios. A rustling in the bushes scares the remaining men, who think it's Gaios. Instead, Aichi emerges and tells Tsutsumi that Gaios only comes out at night. Tsutsumi reports this to Dr. Aoki, and the defenders use light to make it too bright at night without success. Gaios annihilates the Japanese self-defense force with a blast of wind and flies south to Nagoya. Gaios wreaks havoc in the city, and the people gather at the Chunchi Dragons Stadium, where the lights have all been turned on. Gamera shows up and they battle in the skies over Nagoya. Gamera gains the upper hand because Gaios' beams cannot penetrate Gamera's shell. Gaios then extinguishes Gamera's flame breath with yellow vapor. When Gamera hits the water, he bites Gaios' foot and tries to hold him there until sunrise. Gaios then severs his own toe and flies away. The toe is found washed up on the beach by some workers and is eventually brought to Dr. Aoki, where it is remarked that it has shrunk considerably since its discovery. Further experiments reveal that ultraviolet light causes a severed toe to shrink. Therefore, if Gaios is out in the sun too long, it will die. Meanwhile, Gaios has retreated to its cave and regrown its toe. Aichi, along with his sister, bursts into the planning meeting and inadvertently gives Dr. Aoki the idea he needs. They will lure Gaios out at night and immobilize him by making him dizzy using the rotating platform on top of the hotel. The defense force constructs another platform on top of the existing one with a giant bowl of artificial blood on it. With the help of Tsutsumi and his crew, they also build a viewing shelter. A delegation of villagers then appear and tell Tsutsumi they will no longer oppose the expressway. The headman appears, and there seems to be some disagreement between the two sides. Gaios is lured out, but the plan ultimately fails when the substation powering the motors explodes. Gaios then destroys the hotel, extinguishes the substation fire with his vapor, and flies away. Because of Gaios, the expressway is being rerouted, and the villagers, who were told by the headman to hold out, can now no longer sell their land. The villagers blame him, and Aichi comes out of the house, throws a tantrum, and berates the villagers for their greed. His sister also tells the villagers that the headman was acting in their best interests, and the villagers leave. Back inside the house, Aichi tells his sister that Gamera would finish Gaius and that starting a forest fire on Mount Futabo will get Gamera to calm. The headman goes to Tsutsumi and explains his plan. Tsutsumi tells the headman that there will be a lot of money lost because of the destroyed trees, but the headman believes that Gaius was sent as punishment for their greed. Tsutsumi and his crew use the construction equipment to prepare the area for the fire, and an airstrike starts it. Gaius appears and puts out the fire. The second time the fire is started, it attracts Gamera. A fierce battle ensues, which ends when Gamera immobilizes Gaius and flies into Mount Fuji, where he then drags Gaius into the crater to die and flies away. Gamera vs. Gaius was released theatrically in Japan on March 15, 1967. The film was never released theatrically in the United States and was released directly to television by American International Television in 1967 as Return of the Giant Monsters. It was released to home video and reissued to television as Gamera vs. Gaius in 1987. The film appeared twice on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Its first appearance was in 1988 when MST3K was still a local program airing on KTMA. Its second appearance was in 1991 after it became a nationally aired program. Gamera vs. Virus.
Attention all spaceship crew members. We are nearing the end of our journey. Our mission is about to begin. Activate the radar screen. There it is. The Earth. Therefore, our object will be to capture the Earth and colonize it with our own species. Prepare the ship for an immediate attack. What is wrong? Reactivate the radar screen. What is that creature? Is it from the Earth? The enemy! It is our enemy! Attack it at once!
Masa, look out the window! It's a monster! You see it, don't you? It's heading toward us! Ah, it's Gamera! Hurry, let's go!
He won't harm us. Gamera doesn't hurt people. He likes us.
You sure he's harmless?
Oh, yes. You can take his picture if you want.
We must use the time we have left to discover a way to capture Gamera and make him our slave. To do this, we will check his past by exploring his memory waves with a Videotron. Activate the Videotron.
Gamera, I command you to demolish the Okumasashi Dam.
Sister, please tell this to the others. Blast the spaceship. Don't think about us.
Go on. We want you to do it.
Jim!
Oh, no, Jim.
Oh, Jim! Oh, Jim!
Mama. Papa, please understand. All that matters is rescuing the Earth.
Gamera! Use fire! Gamera!
Good, Gamera! That did it!
You are. And you owe that to one of your jokes.
Yes. And as your penalty, no supper at all tonight.
That's right. Gamera!
Gamera vs. Outer Space Monster Virus is a 1968 Japanese kaiju film directed by Noriaki Yuasa. It is the fourth entry in the Gamera film series. A deadly alien force approaches Earth. Gamera intervenes and destroys the alien vessel, but before the ship is destroyed, the aliens broadcast a warning to their world stating that Gamera is their enemy. Later on Earth, a Boy Scout troop is visiting scientists working on a small two-man submarine. Masao and Jim, two of the scouts, manage to talk their way aboard the sub. While in the water, they spot Gamera, who engages in a little race with the boys. However, their hijinks come to an end when the second alien vessel envelops the both of them in a super catch ray. Gamera helps the boys to escape, but it remains trapped in the force field while the aliens scan his memory waves. They learn of Gamera's one weakness, his soft spot for children. Soon after, the field weakens and Gamera is free. The aliens capture Jim and Masao, threatening to kill the boys. Powerless to help them, Gamera lands. Attaching a brainwave control device to Gamera's head, the aliens force the turtle kaiju to do their bidding. While aboard the spaceship, the boys continually try to escape. Gamera, however, under the influence of the aliens, is destroying dams and cities by the handful. Jim and Masao discover a squid-like creature, thinking he is another captive of the aliens. In fact, he is the leader of the aliens. The boys help Gamera break free from the brainwave device and he begins to attack the spaceship. Grounded by Gamera, the aliens reveal that their human forms were just disguises. The aliens all merge to form the giant monster Virus. Gamera and Virus duke it out in a big beachside battle. Gamera manages to pull Virus into the upper atmosphere, freezing him to death. He then flings Virus's body back into the ocean. The boys and a crowd of adults celebrate Gamera's victory. Gamera vs. Virus was released in Japan on March 20, 1968. The film was never released theatrically in the United States. It was released directly to television by American International Television in 1969 as Destroy All Planets. Gamera films are divided into three distinct periods. The Showa period, of which we've explored the first 4 of 8 films, the Heisei period consisting of 3 films, and the Millennium period with just 1 film to date. There are rumors of new films in the works, but any concrete plans have yet to be revealed. My hope is there will be a future for the franchise, because I have been obsessed with Gamera for years. Thank you for listening to Eclectic Obsessions. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe on iTunes. Leave me a review. All 5-star reviews will be read on the show. You can follow the show on Facebook at Eclectic Obsessions, on Twitter at Eclectic Obsess 1, on Instagram at Eclectic Obsessions Podcast, and on YouTube at Eclectic Obsessions. I'd love to hear what you think. Feel free to email the show at ecobpod@gmail.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new Eclectic Obsession.